Welcome to the briefing session for March 4th, 2021. This is the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners' first briefing on this particular item, and we did have a phone call during our regular meeting earlier regarding Cardinal, and that would be number 11 on the agenda that we're running through right now. And by the way, that's not a very long agenda. Would like to also mention, because I know most of the county would like to hear, that Fleming Elamine has another birthday. He said he's slightly over 40. So, and we'll turn the meeting over to our county manager, Dudley Watts.
So we do have a number of items today. I wanted to start by just reminding everybody that on Thursday when we meet, of course, we will start officially here about 9 o'clock with the winter work session that'll run up to lunch. You've seen that agenda. If y'all have any questions, let me know. And I've got a few items still to get, advanced items. We had gotten a lot of information out really to just give you some information to help support the discussion that day. So we will actually start a video at 8:15 in the morning. So if you wanted to get something to eat or a cup of coffee and watch that video, it's really just an overview of kind of the state of the economy that you see economists do sometimes. I just thought it was particularly relevant because he really does kind of hit home sort of how North Carolina and the region fared through COVID. And so that's the first time I've seen somebody do an analysis of it that goes to talk a little bit about why revenue's been better than expected through it. He looks at economic cycles by month or economic output by month in our region and really down to Forsyth County specific. So you'll see some of that. Anyway, it's very good. It's a pre-recorded thing. There's not interactive, but you can watch that. You have the link if you want to watch it, sleep a little later or watch it that evening or something. You can certainly do that. So we have that. When we go into the session Thursday, we will have a special meeting that will take care of those bond items that we pushed off the agenda that you just approved. It will introduce those, and then we have a meeting the next week that we probably can do virtually just to hear the public comments. So did I say all of that right, Ashley?
You did. So Thursday will be the public hearing for the bond items. And then the following Monday, March 1st, will be adoption of the bond orders.
Okay, and we apologize. We're trying to hit a local government commission meeting. They meet once a month, I believe, and they meet on Tuesday. We're on that agenda, and so that's what the rush is, and I apologize. And, the ice storm kind of got us out of sync a little bit on that. But anyway, we appreciate that. So I'll go ahead and dive into the items for the March 4th meeting. It's a fairly lengthy agenda, but they're pretty straightforward. You got the approval of the minutes for the meeting of February 18th. Those will be forthcoming to you. Public session. Item 3 is a resolution approving a second revision to the fiscal year 2020-2021 Home and Community Care Block Grant County Funding Plan for older adults, and it authorizes the execution of the necessary documents to submit the revised plan. Kyle Wolf, Budget Management Director, is on the line. Kyle, are you there?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Commissioners. So the Forsyth County Aging Services Planning Committee has recommended a revision to the FY21 Home and Community Care Block Grant funding plan based on Forsyth County DSS releasing $72,818. Those dollars will be shifted to the Shepherd Center in the amount of $10,000 for senior center operations and to senior services, who will use that money, the balance of $62,818 for additional home delivered meals and congregate nutrition, and then information and options counseling. There's also WISTA was requesting to move $93,289 from the general transportation to medical transportation. We have to, the board needs to approve this in order to submit it to the state for these revisions. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Kyle? Comments? You're home free, Kyle.
Thank you.
All right. Agenda item 4 is a resolution authorizing the submission of an application to the State Library of North Carolina to apply for and accept if awarded Library Services and Technology Act grant. Brian Hart, our library director, will review. Brian, are you on the line? Brian Hart.
Yes, sir.
Okay, volume's good. Just speak slowly, if you will, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. So the application is to outfit the remaining 3 locations of the Forsyth County Public Library with the RFID technology. We have received an invoice from a company whom we've gone with for the previous 7 locations, and we hope to submit a grant with the State Library of North Carolina for the majority of the funds. We believe that RFID technology is essential, particularly in the COVID area, as customers and staff are practicing distancing. The RFID technology and the self-checkout stations really allow for the best or most safe practices to be observed in our locations. So we're excited to be able to do that at these remaining 3 sites.
Any questions on that one?
Questions or comments? Nope. Good
Brian, I'll
job.
just tell you that I had a couple commissioners, you actually started with us, I think, in March, right when COVID hit, and so some of them have never seen you. And so we're going to ask that you, the next time you do a presentation, come in public and let some of the commissioners who hadn't laid their eyes on you do so, but we appreciate your work.
Thank you. Happy to do so.
All right, very good. Agenda item 5 is a resolution to accept 2020 Help America Vote Act, or HAVA fund, from the North Carolina State Board of Elections for election administration for the 2020 federal elections. Janice Hillenbrand from Budget Management will review. Janice, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
We can. Just speak slowly enough so we can follow you.
Yes, of course, I will. Good afternoon, Commissioners. On September 10th, 2020, the Board of Commissioners approved a resolution and amendment to the FY21 budget ordinance to accept an initial $100,000 of Help America Vote Act, or HAVA funds, made available to states to improve the administration of elections for federal offices. This resolution and budget amendment allows the Board of Elections to accept an additional $150,000 in HAVA funding due to the state updating the calculation used to determine county funds dispersed. The new formula bases the amount to be received per county on economic tier and the number of registered voters. Are there any additional questions about this item that I can try to address?
Questions or comments?
Well, what's the money going to be used for?
So this is going to be used to offset costs for the 2020 federal elections, the presidential elections. So there are still some, so it's going to supplement costs that we used for disinfectant wipes, Ziploc bags, supplies, absentee envelopes, things like that, operating supplies for the federal elections. The offset cost there.
Additional questions? Good job.
Very good.
Thank you.
Agenda item 6 is an amendment to the 2020 Forsyth Technical Community College Capital Maintenance 2/3 Bonds Capital Project Ordinance. Kyle might lead with this, but I think that Dr. Spriggs is on the line, and then Kizzy Lee is also on the line, I believe. Kyle, do you want to start?
Yes. Yes, Dudley. So you might remember a few weeks ago or a few meetings ago, we talked about our 2/3 bond CPOs to kind of give an overview. These funds have already been, the CPO has already been set up, so the funds are already available, but the projects have actually not been approved by the board, and so that's really what we're doing today is Forsyth Tech is here to explain which projects would be funded with these funds, and so I'll turn it over to Forsyth Tech, Dr. Spriggs and Kizzy.
Thank you so much, Kyle. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, wonderful. Good afternoon, Commissioners. It's so good to be with you, even virtually. And thank you for the opportunity to talk about the 3 capital projects that we would like approval to move forward with for the 2/3 bond. We have an update and replacement for technology infrastructure at $500,000. This will replace and expand our network capacity, which has...
You've been muted. To unmute yourself, press *6.
and services into an online...
You are no longer muted.
switching and those types of technology infrastructure items that allow us to transfer the knowledge virtually to our students. The second item is $1.6 million for our Hoosier Hall in HVAC. This system was designed in the early 80s, and it only heats the perimeter of the building. So the associated units are also obsolete, meaning that we can no longer get parts. We have to have, we can't get parts to replace them. The new system that we are wanting to install is a modern variable air volume box system, and it will allow all zones to operate independently to heat and cool the entire building. Also, the Hoosier Hall currently does not have a building management system, which we will be installing as part of this project, which will considerably help us with comfort and energy efficiency. And the final project in our budget per package last year, we had listed our another one of our buildings. I'm trying to remember which one it was. It was a different building for a chiller replacement, and we were able to use some money that we had left over from state bonds from the 2016 bond issue to do that chiller. So we moved to the next item on our list, which is an item that needed to be moved up for other reasons because it was installed in 1997. It had a life expectancy of 15 years, but it has managed well for 24 years now. But it is now time for us to upgrade that. We will gain additional reliability and energy efficiency with that new unit. So those are the three items. I'm happy to answer any questions. I also have our Vice President for Financial Services and Chief Financial Officer, Kizzy Lee, here if you have questions.
Questions or comments? Not a one, Dr. Spriggs.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay, very good. Item 7 is a resolution awarding a contract for chiller replacement at Piedmont Propulsion Systems, and that's at Smith Reynolds Airport. And Mark Davidson should be on the line to review this. Mark, you here?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yep. Good afternoon. Piedmont Propulsion leases the facility down here at 4400 Lansing Boulevard, and the county is responsible for the HVAC system, which was originally installed, I think, like 33 years ago. So the last year, the chiller didn't start up after the winter months, and we discovered it was beyond repair since parts were obsolete. So during the summer, we rented a chiller to keep them cool. And while we procured an engineer to develop a plan for replacement, this project was replaced with an existing, this project will be replaced with the existing water-cooled chiller, water pumps, condenser water pumps, and cooling tower with a new 300-ton air-cooled chiller and variable frequency drive chilled water pumps. New electrical circuiting will be installed for all new HVAC equipment with controls for chiller and pump operation, and will be compatible with the existing automated building system. So with assistance from the City County Purchasing, we received 6 competitive bids on February 11th. The project was bid as a formal purchase with installation, and as the equipment cost is greater than the labor and the other trade work is limited. It is recommended that the contract for the chiller replacement and the base bid plus alternatives 1 and 2 in the amount of $502,500 be awarded to Superior Mechanical Systems Incorporated. It is further recommended that the county manager be authorized to sign change orders up to an amount not to exceed $50,000 upon a written agreement with the contractor. This repair was identified in that recent Terracon report that we did for the county. It also was included in the PAYGO fund request that I presented a couple months ago. So as long as the questions aren't too technical, I'll try to answer any questions you have.
Questions or comments?
I had one question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Mr. Alameen.
Mark, the Mechanical Maintenance Incorporated, is that a local company?
I believe so. Is purchasing on the line? Yeah, we had 6 very competitive bids, and they all attended the pre-bid conference. They visited the site, and I believe they are a local firm.
Yeah.
Okay. I can get back to you in a second.
I can answer that. Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is Jerry Bates, City County Purchasing Director. I believe the question is mechanical maintenance local. They are located in Climax, North Carolina.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions on that?
Further questions or comments? That pretty much does it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mark. Agenda item 8 is a resolution awarding a contract for purchase of Dodge Durango police pursuit vehicles for use by Emergency Services Department as paramedic quick response vehicles. You've got the associated budget ordinance amendment, and Kevin Rogers is going to review this. I was just going to make a mention and kind of put it in context. These actually are going to be used by the Mobile Integrated Health folks, and these will be hot-seated kind of cars for them. When the board originally approved the Mobile Integrated Health really concept, we put them at the time in backup vehicles, and some of them were sedans and what have you. What we saw, and we did that really because it was funded as a pilot, and we didn't know if whether we were going to continue it or not. A couple of years ago at a winter work session, we got a direction from you that you felt comfortable with that program. If you remember, Brent Motzinger reviewed it, and so we went ahead and made the program permanent. In last year's budget, we did not put a first-line vehicle, put them in a first-line vehicle. The other thing that's driving this, because you might say, well, maybe they don't need to be in a first-line vehicle, is they actually are part of that emergency response, and so they do run lights and sirens to calls, and so that was kind of identified as an issue, and that's where we are with it today. The funding for this was when you went back and looked at reversions for this year, when we did that back in December, when we identified the dollars for this. And so, but I'll turn it over to Kevin to talk about the work that went into bid it, and then whatever questions. Kevin, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay.
All right. Bids were received by the City County Purchasing Department for the purchase of 3 all-wheel drive Dodge Durangos per bid specifications.
Kevin, we are the audio quality is not good at all. It's kind of fuzzy, actually.
Is he wearing a mask?
How's now?
That's a whole lot better. Did you have a mask on?
No, actually, it was another camera I had hooked up, and it's probably messing my volume up. So I apologize.
No worries.
Can we start over, or?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, all right. Bids were received by the City County Purchasing Department for the purchase of 3 all-wheel drive Dodge Durangos per bid specifications at the request of General Services and intended for use by Emergency Services. The following bid was received was Horace G. Ilderton, LLC. And the bid offered by Horace G. Ilderton, LLC is provided through the North Carolina Sheriff's Association Group Purchasing Program. It is a recommendation of the county manager, the county general services director, and the city county purchasing director that a contract for the purchase of 3 all-wheel drive Dodge Durangos per bid specifications in the amount of $33,508 each be awarded to Horace G. Ilderton, LLC, a total amount not to exceed $100,524. Do you have any questions?
I've got a couple. And the first one is the need for a police pursuit vehicle. Now, I do understand the issue that there will be some siren kind of work, but my understanding of a pursuit vehicle is someone who can catch a speeder or a getaway kind of car out on the open highway, and we're talking about a vehicle that can do top end, 120 without even thinking about it. And do we need that kind of performance kind of vehicle for these? I mean, they've been using spare vehicles, to this point, and to switch to that strikes me as way overkill. And we're talking about energy efficient. We're talking about the most inefficient, engine that you can provide out here. That's my first question.
Kevin, can you talk about the specs of what the police pursuit vehicle has? It's really heavy-duty brakes and some other stuff, right?
Yes, that's correct. Heavy-duty brakes, heavy-duty suspension. And also, we looked at the alternatives, like a standard Durango D8 all-wheel drive is $38,994. And then the SSV model, which we purchased in the past, does not offer all-wheel drive.
Yeah, so I think the 3 components here that they call it police pursuit, but I mean, you're not going to drive that fast in a Dodge Durango, but it's really it's brakes and suspension are the 2 pieces that are of interest to us, and then all-wheel drive, just because that will assist in our snow and ice.
Certainly, but fuel efficiency is one of those things too, and I guarantee you that is not a fuel-efficient vehicle.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
And the second question, I'll go to the second question. You've answered the first one. I just don't like your answer.
No.
The second question is typically when we have bought police vehicles from the sheriffs, whatever else, I mean, those are running 25 and 26 and 27,000. They're not running 33,000, and I'm kind of curious what is special about this vehicle.
Kevin, you want
This
to?
is a full-size SUV, a Dodge Durango police pursuit vehicle, and then the ones for 25,000 have been our Dodge Chargers.
Yeah, and they do carry a lot of equipment, so they're carrying and they do actually transport more than you think. Actually,
They're not transporting people.
yeah, they are actually.
They are.
They do a lot of people transport.
Let's do this for next Thursday. Why don't we get Brent to come in and talk about why he spec'd this vehicle? And because he really is, as the user, they spec'd it. And they do. We've got approval, really in the development of the program, to actually we can transport to behavioral health crisis centers and what have you. So, and we can give you some data around that. So.
Well, and while we're checking for next week, let's look at the fuel. I'd like to know the fuel efficiency rating for the engines in those cars.
Absolutely, I'll get that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
We'll get Brent in next Thursday, and Damon's on the line, so if he can make sure that happens. that'd be
Mrs.
great.
Wisenhunt.
And there are no competitive bids, by the way. That's the last thing, sorry.
Yeah, I just would like to say I think this is money very well spent for the quality of work that they do and what they do for our citizens. It's been recognized nationwide, this program has.
Not arguing about its value. I think it's a wonderful program. In fact, I had Brent on a Cardinal program that a WebEx program a few weeks ago. He is great. It's a great program. I'm just trying to go from spare vehicles to performance cars from police. I'm just kind of curious about that part.
Sure. We'll get Brent in next Thursday, and we can step through that. So that'll be great. Any other questions on that?
You say next Thursday, that means day after tomorrow?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you. So, next Thursday. That's day after tomorrow. That's right. So, all right. Very good. Thank you. Item 9 is a resolution selecting an architectural firm and authorizing the execution of a contract to provide professional architectural and engineering services for the, believe it or not, Tanglewood Clubhouse project, because we've been talking about this for a lot of years. James Anderson should be on the line to talk about that. James, are you available?
Actually, James isn't available, but I'm going to brief this item on James.
That's right. So, Damon, if you can speak up a little bit.
Sure. Can you hear me better?
That's great.
All right. So thank you, Mr. Manager, Commissioners, Chairman. The item before you was a resolution selecting and authorizing a contract with Stitch Design Shop as the architect for the Tanglewood Clubhouse project. Stitch was selected by a request for qualifications process. 13 firms responded to the RFQ. The selection committee was made of manager's office staff, Parks and Recreation staff, and general services staff. We reviewed and scored each response, got it down to a final 3 of Walter Robbs, Callahan and Pierce, CJMW, and Stitch. And Stitch was the firm that was selected to be recommended to you for this project. Stitch is a architectural firm founded in 2013. They feature a staff of 5 licensed architects and 3 licensed interior designers. They have teamed with Quo Diedrich Kai, which is a premier clubhouse golf architectural firm, as a sub-consultant. The project has a total budget of $7 million, of which $5.5 million is the construction budget. Staff have negotiated a not-to-exceed fee of $385,000, which is 7% of the construction budget, for basic services, $55,000 for additional services, and $10,000 is for reimbursables. So the total is $450,000, which is 8.2% of the construction budget. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Questions or comments?
David, can you talk a little bit about it is the new facility, but there are also some work on the existing facility and kind of whether we keep that building, how we convert use, and how the building sort of interacts. So it's a little bit. You want to talk to that?
Sure. So part of the $55,000 in additional services, $15,000 of that, is to assess the existing facility. So the plan right now is to build a new facility as part of that roundabout in front of the golf clubhouse that exists right now. And then the current golf clubhouse will be assessed to determine whether or not it should be used for primarily catering or other activities in there that would be rented out to the public, or if it would be raised, and then the upper level was just basically flat. It was like a plaza that could be for staging golf events or for meals for eating or just for an observation point over the golf course because it has great views from there, or just to let it remain and have it be something that is programmed by us or our contractor who's in that facility. And so we're really trying to assess how it works with the new facility that is being planned by the architectural firm.
Questions? Got it.
Very good. All right, agenda item 10 is a resolution ratifying and authorizing execution of an interlocal agreement between Forsyth County on behalf of the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office and Davidson County for the provision of digital forensic services. Randy Hunsucker, the Sheriff's Business Officer, will review. Randy, are you on the line?
Yes, sir. Dudley, can you hear me okay?
Yep, a little bit of a kind of a echo, but just speak loudly and slowly and we should be good.
You got it. Thank you, sir, and good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and board members. This item does authorize an interlocal agreement with the Davidson County Sheriff's Office to receive digital forensic services using equipment owned by Davidson County. The services will include analyzing electronic devices and providing required testimony, both for $100 each. The estimated annual cost and do not exceed amount that we're setting is $3,000 each, or $3,000. I wanted to also mention that in contacting Davidson County, we've learned that they're spending $18,000 a year on just the licensing alone. So as much as that we would use it, it's more cost effective to use the service with Davidson County and lock in the prices through the middle of 2025. We did budget funds, the current year budget for forensic specialty services, and we're not asking for any additional funds. Are there any questions on this item?
Questions? Not a one.
Great, thank you, Randy. Agenda item 12 is, agenda item 11 is a resolution authorizing the county manager to continue the process of disengagement from Cardinals Innovations Healthcare and to seek realignment with Partners in Behavioral Health Management. And Chantel Robinson, our deputy county manager, will lead us in this discussion. Chantel, are you there?
I am. Thank you, Mr. Manager, and good afternoon, Commissioners. As a follow-up to my presentation last week, the resolution before you authorizes the county manager to proceed with the formal disengagement process from the county's current LME MCO, Cardinal Innovations Healthcare, and to seek realignment with Partners Behavioral Health Management to administer mental and behavioral health services for Forsyth County residents. Rhett Melton, CEO of Partners, is joining me today to provide a brief overview of Partners and to assist with answering any questions you may have. Mr. Melton, you can begin.
Thank you, Chantel. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Thanks for the time to have a few minutes on your schedule, and just wanted to thank Chantel for the opportunity over the last 5 months as we've had to work with that team. I applaud the county for the thoroughness and the extensiveness of the due diligence process that the county's gone through and looking at their opportunities, and certainly Partners has been pleased, and we're honored and humbled that the county leadership is making the recommendation for the consideration of joining Partners. You know, as we've had the chance to get to know Chantel and her team, and we were glad to hear a couple of the comments last week from some of the commissioners who had reached out to other peer commissioners. We're very deliberate about our model and very deliberate about the way that we go about serving the members that we serve. We build everything off of a very transparent and trusting relationship with our counties, and we look forward to the opportunity to answering any questions that you have about that model here. But as I have the opportunity to talk with people, and early on when we had the opportunity to talk to the assistant manager and her team, really, if you want to know about partners, you can look at our letterhead, really, and it describes who we are. The most important thing for us when you look at partners is our name. We were very deliberate back when we picked that name when the company was formed, and it's not just the logo that we put out there. It's not just something on our business cards, but really that describes who we are. We believe, first and foremost, we're a partner to the members that we serve. As you know, and as you've heard, the members that are served by the LME MCOs are some of, if not the most challenging and needy consumers or members in your region, in your county. So we believe, first and foremost, it's our duty and it's our ethical obligation to partner with them first. Many of our members, they don't want you to do things to them. They don't want you to do things necessarily for them. They want you to be there with them. They want you to be their partner to accomplish in life what they want to accomplish. And we take that very serious, and that's, again, why we picked the name that we did. Secondly, for us, we believe that we're a partner to the providers. We as an organization don't necessarily provide the services to the members. We do that through the network of providers, and we believe there's a variety of ways that you can relate to the providers, and we believe the best way is through a partnership, to work with them, to help them be most successful, to help them provide valuable service and accessible services to the members that they serve. And so we, again, are very deliberate about being a partner to those providers. And then we believe that we're a partner to the community stakeholders. Partners has a reputation of, and again, it's not by accident, it's very deliberate, that we partner with the local community organizations, with our DSS organizations and the health departments and the local hospital systems and the local sheriff and the United Way agencies. That's where we differentiate ourselves, frankly, from some of the national health insurance companies, is that we believe that healthcare is local. We believe Forsyth County is different from Gaston County and Yadkin County and Iredell County. And each one of our counties, we deal with very locally and make sure that we're connected with those community organizations in a way that serves them. And lastly, I guess, in terms of partnership, I would say that if you really wanted to understand partners, I believe, and we believe as a company, we're a partner to the employees that we have. We recognize that we'll never be anything for Forsyth County or for Gaston County or for Cleveland or Iredell or Catawba County that we are not as an organization. So we spend a lot of time building a culture within partners that is, again, transparent, that's very team-oriented, that's very mission-focused, knowing that when our team members, all the way from myself to the newest employee that comes in the organization, when we go out to the community and we relate to individuals, it's not anything different than we do every day internally with each other. There's again, built off of trust and transparency and a culture that we believe permeates what we do every day. So as we've had the chance to talk with Chantel and working with the team, and they've been doing their due diligence, and we kind of have as well, we've approached this, really the way that we have in other counties that have approached partners. And we look at it through really 4 questions that we ask. When a county seeks to engage with us, we ask first, can we serve you in the way that you're asking to be served? Can we do for you what you're asking us to do? And then we also ask ourselves, can we do that in such a way that we don't detract from the services that we're committed to with our current counties? And then we look at, can we do that in such a way not to diminish or detract from the other commitments that we have with our strategic plan or with the other obligations that we have. And we've gone through that process, over the last 5 months with Chantel and her team, and the answer to those questions for us is yes. We believe that we can serve the county in the way that they're looking to be served. We believe that we can do it in such a way that we're not going to diminish or detract from the services that we're committed to with our current citizens and the counties that we serve. And we can do it in such a way to remain successful and committed to the other priorities that we have. So, Mr. Chair, again, I appreciate the time to be on your agenda, and glad to answer any questions that might come up.
Questions or comments?
I've got sort of a general question. This is Don Martin, Commissioner. Can you talk a little bit about the metrics that you all use, the kind of the data you collect that lets you know that you are doing a good job, and what about your relationship with your partners, not just the counties but also your providers, relationships with the clients that you're basically serving. Talk a little bit about those, and what would you say are the top 2 or 3 kind of quality metrics that are most important to partners?
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Martin, for the question. Again, that's central to who we are when you talk about some of those things. Some of them are tangible and some of them are intangible, but some of the tangible things that we look at, the state routinely does a survey of providers and members and satisfaction to see how well they believe that the care is being delivered, how the care is being provided or afforded to them. We have a very strong consumer family advisory committee that partners executive leadership and our board of directors rely on heavily to give us feedback about the quality of the services, the cooperation and connectedness that we have with our members. The same for our provider community. We survey our providers. We have a monthly meeting with our provider senior leadership. I engage frequently with the CEOs of our provider organizations to continually look to see what their assessment of us are, and again, look to have partnerships with them. So when we're seeking changes, be it in the provider community, for example, if we need to do something, partner style is to bring together groups of providers, talk about the change that we see, and collaborate on how best to accomplish that together. We recognize that, again, our mission does not get accomplished. Partners' mission does not get accomplished unless the mission of the providers are accomplished as well. Our mission's the same, frankly. It's to serve people and to help them get the care that they need. So I came from the provider community when I came to the system in North Carolina in the year 2000. Came from the hospital industry where it was a very antagonistic relationship that we had. Very competitive market in Atlanta, a very competitive situation with managed care. And it was not helpful for the members. And so part of that helped shape my view of managed care and consequently what I do as the leader of partners and how I try to expand that belief. And that is, again, we have a duty and responsibility because of the contract to have certain oversight responsibilities. I get that. But there's a way and a style that we can do that that's more collaborative, that's more successful for the providers and more engaging. So some of the metrics to your question, some of the metrics are state-oriented surveys that talk about how they view the relationships. But much of it is just the day in, day out activities that we do. That's not foreign for us. I mean, we literally are engaged with our departments of social services routinely and daily. I often have frequent conversations and opportunity to meet and connect with our DSS directors and school superintendents and others. So it's a continual feedback that we get to see if we're doing things the way that we envision doing them to the best benefit of the members.
It's good. I have just one other question, then I'll stop. And the second question is really one that deals with a lot of IDD individuals and their families that really require a lot of special home care of various sorts. And this is a statewide problem, I think, is in terms of a lot of gaps in services not being provided. And it is my understanding the state is going to release, it's been delayed. I think it's an electronic verification system where you know when providers are not actually providing those services. And I do understand that one of the problems has a lot to do with the kind of the reimbursements or the wages that can be paid, and the reimbursements tied in from Medicaid are very low, and it's very hard to keep people employed and very hard to have substitutes to come take the place when emergencies do arise. can you give sort of the partner's flavor of that? And is there anything that you all do that in any way incentivizes providers to see that those care gaps are not taking place?
Sure, great question, and you're right. There is a statewide challenge that is currently there for these services. So, Partners is a participant in the statewide group now that is looking at that issue, and specifically to your point, looking to see if we can address the wage disparity that creates some gaps. I've had the opportunity over the last couple of weeks to meet with all the leadership in the Health and Human Services Senate and House committees and talk about that as being one of our legislative priorities that we have for this year, is to make sure that, because that direct support professional, to your point, that direct support professional is oftentimes the glue, for the members and their families to get care. There's a lot of professionals that are active in the care for these individuals, but oftentimes it's that direct support professional that really is kind of right there in the center and keeps it going. They're not necessarily the highest paid person on that care team, but they often provide one of the most valuable services. So we're looking at it from that standpoint. Locally, we are looking at creating value-based contracts with our providers to see how can we incentivize them to more quickly shore up those gaps, or to provide for hours that are available through the authorization. If a member has been judged to be approved for a certain number of hours, then a variety of clinical people along the way have said that individual needs that. So to your point, underutilization is just as important as overutilization, because people have determined that individual needs something, and so what is it that they're not getting? So it will be, the solution is going to be through the having wages that keep that workforce whole. And also to what we're doing locally is creating value-based incentives for the providers to use those authorized care hours and make sure that the members are getting all that they need and all that's afforded, if it's appropriate, through the authorization process. Again, I think globally I would come back to part of where we can sometimes have success at Partners is because we do start from a relationship with our providers. It's very collaborative, that there is a partnership with our providers. So oftentimes we're able to have some success, quick success, because of that foundation that we start with, kind of built on that trust and transparency that I mentioned earlier.
Thank you.
Additional questions or comments?
Chairman, my comment is just to say thank you for the presentation today. I appreciate the sincerity of the representative from Partners today with regards to the service and his commitment, and not to distract or diminish the process that's transpiring as we speak. And I also wanted the Forsyth County leadership team to know that we have listened, and we will be listening to your voices moving forward with the partnership with Partners. Thank you so very much.
I think that's it, Chantel.
I have a Chantel
Thank you,
question.
Mr. Chairman.
I have a question just for Chantel.
Sure.
And it gets at in fact, I was making some notes just listening to our caller today, Dietrich from Cardinal, about, the improvements that have been made. And I was even this is literally kind of off the top of my head, listing a couple, I think there's some metrics we ought to be tracking to see, because one of the things that Dietrich from Cardinal said today is that we're going to be with them for a while. I mean, a transition is way off. Assuming this group approves the separation and the whole process that begins at that point, it'll be a long time. And I think we ought to have the metrics that we think that because we've talked about a lot of them. One was a fairly simple one, the 72-hour authorization. Once someone needs service, there's a 72 hours from example, either a Partners or a Cardinal, to be able to authorize that service. The second issue is the real hard part, which is actually seeing that the service gets provided. Is there a provider that the new foster child, the emergency home person emergency room person that's released, a place for them to go? And Chantel answered, I think the last time we talked about this, that Partners has good transitional services. So I think we ought to be tracking the number of days that we have folks without appropriate placements. We got this many days of in a period of time with inappropriate placements not available, or appropriate placement not available. And then we should have the number of days that transitional care and interim care is provided, and quite frankly, those should be the same. And I think that's a real difference between what I project may be between two different providers, is that this limbo part is the part that really creates a major problem, I think, for us here to try to deal with these interim, periods. And then I think another statistic that Victor Isler shared with us was that how many people return to the emergency room after 30 days, which actually is a metric that's tracked from all of the LME MCOs across the state. And we ought to continue to track that and see if that's getting better. And we ought to be looking at that on whatever's a normal monthly basis, something. We ought to be seeing if things are getting better. And then, by the way, assuming that we were to make a change, then we have some things that we're tracking that we want to see what kind of success that we're having. And I think this issue, the state's, and I apologize for not catching the name of the CEO from Partners, but the electronic verification thing, I think, is going to happen, and then we're going to have a metric that determines all these IDD, all these folks that have gaps in their service, and we ought to be tracking those. We can't do it now, but I think at some point we'll be able to do that, hopefully in the next 3 or 4 months. But anyway, and there may be other things we need to look at, but we ought to be able to know on some kind of rolling 30-day basis whether these things are happening, because we are getting people released from emergency rooms on a regular basis. We're getting, foster children placements that are coming up at various levels of foster care. And we ought to have some harder data than it's too soon to tell, or Cardinals, on the other hand, we made all these improvements. Well, what are the things we're looking at that's important to us? And that helps us know that the job is getting done.
Thank you, Commissioner Martin. The Department of Social Services has started tracking that data, so we are looking at that regularly, and that is data that we have available to us in terms of the time from authorizations to the time of actual placements, as well as ER discharges. So that is data that we are reviewing very carefully. I can tell you, I think at our last meeting, that the ER readmissions had not improved, but as I stated before, it really is to tell just to say holistically how things are going, but in terms of placement, that is not 72 hours. Authorizations, yes, has gotten better. Actual placements in themselves still has a lot of room for improvement, but we will continue to track that with Cardinal through our transition, and that's certainly information we will also track with Partners if we continue through this process.
Thank you.
Commissioners and Chantel, I would hasten to point out this is a briefing session for the 4th of March, which is not too far off, and it's important that we keep in mind we're going to be asked to act on a resolution disengaging from Cardinal. So the importance of this report from Chantel is critical, and it's going to get even more critical when it comes down to making the decision by a vote on the 4th of March. Mr. County Manager.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 12 is a resolution authorizing the county manager to solicit offers for county-owned real property located at 3554 Clemens Road. That is the Clemens Library site there up on Stratford, Stratford Road. Kirby Robinson should be on the line, and he can talk about the disposition strategy. We had talked about global disposition strategy. I think what we've landed on is that each piece of property that the county might be interested in selling has unique sets of circumstances. And so we're going to kind of bring those to you on a case-by-case basis. But we are prepared today to bring you the Clemens Library site. Kirby, are you on the line?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Board. I'm going to share my screen with you, and hopefully that'll work out well. If you don't see a PowerPoint...
Hold on one second. While you're doing that, Kirby, actually, Commissioners, you do have a hard copy in front of you. It's a little confusing. The first one is actually the Highland Avenue property, which we're moving forward on, and then the page behind that is actually what he's going to be showing on the screen. So there you go, Kirby. You're off and running.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, good afternoon again, Mr. Chairman and Board. Again, this is a disposition strategy in regards to the Clemens Branch Library site. As background, obviously that library is located in Clemens, on Clemens Road. The estimated completion date of the new branch library is April, and the current facility will then be vacant in May. A couple pictures of the site. On the left, you see an aerial of the subject property. Clemens Road is to the south. There's a service road, Old Clemens School Road to the left. I believe that's the Old Clemens School to the right, I guess. And then a street view of the branch library on the right side of the screen. The county acquired the property in 1982. The use restrictions that are in the deed expired in 2002. The property is zoned IP. It's just over an acre in size, and the facility is a little over 5,300 square feet. So if the board does desire to sell the property, we sort of conceptualize that process into three buckets, the first being sort of a marketing and offer period. So the resolution in front of you authorizes the manager to solicit fair market value offers to purchase the property. And again, if the board desires to move forward with that, staff recommends a minimum bid amount equal to the property's current unofficial tax value, which is about $787,000. In order to solicit offers, we do recommend a marketing period of 60 days. And again, our marketing efforts will include a physical sign on the site. We'll post the sale on the county's website as well as some of the commercial realty sites. We'll notify the local realtors group, and then we'll provide notification to any party that's contacted the board and expressed interest in the property. So obviously, during the 60-day period, interested bidders can submit an offer. We will ask them in that offer to submit their name, how much they're proposing to purchase the property for, and their intended use of the property, including any associated plans or drawings they may have, especially any rezoning needs that the board would want to consider. Staff will then report all of those offers back to the board once the 60-day period closes. So at this point in the process, we would move into the second step, which would be the board's consideration of the offers it received. And the board has a lot of flexibility in this process. You have complete discretion as to what proposal you may choose to advertise for upset bid, if any. The board could obviously reject any and all offers at this point. After reviewing offers, the board may choose to advertise an offer for the upset bid process and may choose to place general restrictions on the use of the property. And again, the upset bid process will follow the statute that's in front of you there, which requires a 5% deposit by the bidder. There's a non-refundable cost to the bidder for the advertisement in the paper, and that period kicks off with an initial 10-day upset bid window. At the close of the upset bid process, that comes back to the board for potential acceptance of the last and highest offer. And again, the board has the opportunity to reject all bids at this time. If a sale is authorized, staff will negotiate a purchase contract with the buyer in accordance with the board's desired use restrictions, if any. A potential disposition schedule would look like this. The March 4th meeting, you could authorize us to solicit offers. Our marketing period would go mid-March to mid-May. Again, that property would become available in May, and then you could potentially be authorizing an offer for advertisement upset bid in June. So as a quick summary, General Services expects to complete the Clemens Branch Library in April. The current facility will be available for sale in May. In order to sell the property, staff recommends soliciting fair market value offers of at least $787,000 over a 60-day period, and we'll report all offers back to the board. And if you desire to pursue an offer, we suggest using the advertisement and upset bid process to arrive at a last and highest offer for your consideration. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions the board has.
Questions or comments?
I do.
Oh, Commissioner Whisenhunt.
Kirby or Dudley, whatever.
Yes, ma'am.
One of the proposed rezoning, would Clemens do the rezoning?
That's probably a Gordon question. It's actually in Clemens' jurisdiction, so yes, it would be subject to.
Yeah, it would be. I think if they were proposing, say, an industrial use or something that we didn't want, that was something you might want to know up front.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions? Okay.
All right, very good. All right, thank you, Kirby. Agenda item 13 is a resolution authorizing the acceptance of 4 easements from the city of Winston-Salem related to the construction and operation of the new Forsyth County Courthouse, which is underway adjacent to us. And Chelsea Swain with General Services will review. Chelsea, are you on the line?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, just
Good afternoon.
speak loudly and slowly, please.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Commissioners. As the County Manager just stated, this item is to authorize the acceptance of easements from the City of Winston-Salem. This is to access, construct, and operate the new courthouse facility, and these include access for the tunnel, which will connect the detention center to the new courthouse, underground to allow for inmate transport, foundations and shoring for the facility on the front side, and then on the back side of the facility, parking and driveway access, that would be along Patterson Avenue, as well as a temporary construction easement is included in this for staging and installation. The county would be responsible to maintain all the permanent easement areas, so the tunnel, foundations, shoring, parking, and driveway. And really all this item does, this acceptance allows the county to proceed with the plans that we have without having to modify anything. And I'm happy to try and answer any questions if you have any.
Questions or comments? Good job.
Great, thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you.
All right, item 14 is really the second reading on those ambulance franchise ordinances, so I won't go into a lot of detail there. And then the last item is a resolution acknowledging the receipt of the tax collector's report of the total amount of unpaid 2020 taxes that are liens on real property and ordering the tax collector to advertise such tax liens. And John Burgess is probably on the line to tell us how to not get, for folks who want to not have their name in the paper. So, you there, John?
I am. Thank you, and good afternoon, Commissioners. Your approval of this item acknowledges receipt of a report of the 2020 delinquent property taxes that constitute a lien on real property and orders me to advertise such liens in a newspaper having general circulation in Forsyth County. The resolution language is a little less specific than last year's as far as the actual advertising week. Last year, we advertised during the week of June 15th due to COVID-19 and allowing the public a little more time in that effort. This year, I anticipate that we would advertise during the week, the first or second week of June. We do plan to be consistent with last year. We advertised in 4 local papers, those being the Winston-Salem Journal, Winston-Salem Chronicle, the Kernersville News, and the Clemens Courier. Anyone's names that appears in the newspaper has the honor and privilege of being able to pay for that service themselves through a fee that we attach to their bill, and last year that fee was about $6 per entry.
Questions? Are you going to use the same newspapers this year you used last year?
Yes, sir.
I remember back in the day, I won't mention names, but there was a county commissioner who took up a great deal of space on that particular item. So every year, the game was to look in the paper, and or whatever paper you're looking at, to see how much more the commissioner's name was in this time than he was the last time. So I hope that doesn't happen too often.
That is it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, John. That's it for me, Mr. Chairman.
Is there nothing else we can do?
There are lots of things you can do.
Commissioners, you have any comments before we adjourn? Any thoughts?
It's 30 seconds, Mr. Chairman. Just 30 seconds.
Yes, sir.
The last couple of nights I've been listening to these reports of the 500,000 Americans being lost in lives because of COVID-19. So I just want to encourage us to keep those families in mind, even though they say it's a half familiar, you're talking about a mother and a father also. So in our private moments, please give some thought and condolences to those Americans who lost their lives through this pandemic.
You
Thank you,
know,
Mr. Chairman.
what you just said makes a lot of sense. I didn't realize that all the people who died in World War I, World War II, Vietnam, and Korea, those deaths don't match the number of deaths that we've gotten with the pandemic virus we have. Well, if there are no further comments, Commissioner Kaplan, is there anything you'd like to say? He moves, we adjourn. I second the motion. We're adjourned.
Good luck.